intimate look at what those sons were going through. Diana certainly wouldn't have been proud of both of them as they've carried on her philanthropy and graciousness. William and Harry have been commemorating her life over the past year, rededicating her grave, installing a garden. London celebrated her birthday. The anniversary of her death is this Thursday, August 31st.
They broke into Princess Diana's secret vault, and what they found inside left everyone speechless. Jewels worth hundreds of millions, just sitting there in the darkness for over 20 years. The royal family tried to keep this quiet, but the truth is finally coming out. One piece alone could buy a private island. Another was cursed, they say, and Diana refused to ever wear it again. But here's the really disturbing part.
These 2 hours, the presenters on every news channel were saying, injured but expected to make a full recovery, and I have no idea why, but it made me so angry.
This morning, more from that rare interview and others in the royal family in the new BBC documentary, Diana, 7 Days.
Some of these priceless treasures have completely vanished, and nobody knows where they went. What we discovered will shock you to your core. On the 29th of July, 1981, the world watched as a young woman stepped out of a glass coach and walked up the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral. Lady Diana Spencer, just 20 years old, was about to marry the heir to the British throne. Her ivory silk taffeta dress, with its 25-foot train, captured the imagination of millions watching across the globe. But it wasn't just the dress that caught everyone's attention. It was Diana herself, her grace, her evident nervousness, and the way she seemed to embody every fairy tale we'd ever been told about princesses. What nobody could have predicted that day was how this shy kindergarten teacher would transform not just the image of the royal family, but also the way we think about royal jewelry. Over the next 16 years, Diana would take centuries-old traditions and make them fresh, relevant, and deeply personal. She wore priceless tiaras and historic gems, yes, but she wore them in ways that felt modern and accessible. She turned jewelry into a form of self-expression, a way to communicate without words. After the wedding, Diana had to learn quickly. She had no prior experience of royal life, no training in the complex protocols and expectations that come with being married to the future king. Her new role required her to attend state banquets, foreign tours, and countless public appearances. And with each occasion came the question of what to wear, including which pieces from the royal collection she would choose. In those early months, Diana consolidated her relationship with the British public and international audiences. When she went on walkabouts with Charles, crowds would gather in their thousands, often calling out her name specifically. There was something about her that connected with ordinary people. Perhaps it was her youth, or the way she seemed genuinely interested in the people she met, bending down to speak with children and making eye contact with everyone who approached her. The jewelry she wore became part of that connection. Each piece told a story, and people paid attention. They noticed what she wore to which event, how she styled each piece, and when she chose to wear something new versus something familiar. Diana brought a unique blend of style, dignity, and genuine warmth to the role, and her jewelry choices reflected that. Let's start with perhaps the most famous piece of all, the engagement ring. When Prince Charles proposed to Diana in February 1981, he didn't follow the usual royal tradition of commissioning a custom-made ring. Instead, he took Diana to the crown jewelers, Gerard, and let her choose from their collection. She selected a stunning oval blue sapphire, surrounded by 14 diamonds, set in white gold. The sapphire was substantial, reportedly 12 carats, and the ring was beautiful by any standard. But it caused quite a stir. The problem wasn't the design itself, which was elegant and eye-catching. The issue was that this particular ring appeared in the Gerard catalog, which meant that technically anyone with enough money could purchase an identical ring. For a future queen, this seemed inappropriate to some royal watchers and traditionalists. The ring cost £28,000 at the time, which was certainly expensive, but it wasn't one of a kind. This broke from royal tradition, where engagement rings were typically unique creations designed specifically for the bride. Compare this to more recent royal engagements. When Prince Harry proposed to Meghan Markle, He spent 6 months designing her ring. The center stone was a diamond from Botswana, a country that held special meaning for the couple, as Harry had taken Meghan there early in their relationship. On either side, he placed 2 smaller diamonds taken from his late mother's personal jewelry collection. Every element was intentional, personal, and completely unique. But Diana's choice, controversial as it may have been to some, turned out to be perfect in its own way. The sapphire and diamond ring became one of the most recognizable pieces of jewelry in the world. And after Diana's death in 1997, it took on even deeper significance. Diana had made arrangements for her jewelry to be passed down to her sons, William and Harry. Initially, Prince Harry kept their mother's engagement ring. However, when Prince William decided to propose to Catherine Middleton, Harry made the generous decision to let his older brother have the ring. William later explained his reasoning in an interview, saying it felt right to bring together 2 very special things in his life. By giving Catherine his mother's ring, he found a way to include Diana in their engagement and their future together. It was a touching gesture that ensured Diana's presence would be felt in the next generation of the royal family. The ring now sits on Catherine's finger, where millions continue to admire it at royal engagements around the world. It's been appraised at well over £300,000 in today's market, though its sentimental value is beyond measure. Another significant piece from Diana's early days as Princess of Wales was the Prince of Wales feather crest. This was a wedding gift from Charles, a pendant featuring the iconic 3-feather emblem of the Prince of Wales. The feathers were encrusted with diamonds and set in gold, hanging from a delicate diamond necklace. It was a traditional piece, one that connected Diana to the long history of the Prince of Wales title. Diana wore this pendant frequently in the early years of her marriage. It seemed to represent her new role and her connection to Charles. She particularly favored it for formal occasions, where she wanted to acknowledge her position as the Princess of Wales. The piece was elegant without being overly grand, which suited Diana's emerging style. Later, when Charles gave her a pair of emerald and diamond earrings, Diana had the pendant modified. She added an emerald drop to the bottom, creating a striking green accent that complemented the new earrings. This showed Diana's growing confidence in adapting jewelry to suit her preferences. She wasn't afraid to update and personalize pieces, even those with traditional significance. After Diana's death, this pendant, along with the emerald earrings, was eventually given to Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, who is now married to Charles. It's one of several pieces from Diana's collection that have found their way to the current Duchess of Cornwall. In 1997, just weeks before her death, Diana attended a gala performance of Swan Lake at the Royal Albert Hall. For the occasion, she borrowed an extraordinary necklace from Gerard, the royal jeweler. The piece featured large South Sea pearls alternating with diamond clusters, creating a dramatic effect. Diana wore it with a fitted black dress, and the photographs from that evening show her looking radiant and confident. Diana had hoped to purchase this necklace, along with a matching pair of earrings that were being made to complete the set. Tragically, she died before this could happen. The necklace became known as the Swan Lake necklace, forever associated with that final public appearance. In the years since, it has become one of the most sought-after pieces in auction history. When it last sold, it fetched approximately $12 million, a testament both to its beauty and its connection to Diana's story. Among the most spectacular pieces Diana wore was a sapphire and diamond brooch that came from Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. This wasn't just any sapphire. The stone was enormous, reportedly the size of a duck's egg, a deep blue specimen from Sri Lanka. It was set in a double row of diamonds, creating a piece of extraordinary brilliance. Diana first wore it as intended, as a brooch pinned to her shoulder at a banquet at Hampton Court Palace in 1982. But brooches didn't really suit Diana's personal style. They felt old-fashioned to her, too formal and stuffy for the modern image she wanted to project. So she did something creative. She had the brooch converted into the centerpiece of an elaborate choker necklace. 7 strands of pearls held the sapphire in place at her throat, creating a dramatic and distinctive look. This adaptation was quintessentially Diana. She took something traditional from the royal collection and made it completely her own. The pearls were a nod to her Spencer family heritage, where pearl jewelry was common, while the sapphire represented her connection to the royal family. By combining these elements, she created something that belonged uniquely to her. She wore this sapphire and pearl choker frequently, often paired with matching sapphire earrings, and it became one of her signature looks. As Diana grew into her role and developed her own distinct identity, she became increasingly confident in how she used jewelry to express herself. She understood that what she wore sent messages, and she learned to use that power deliberately. The jewelry became less about following tradition and more about making statements, sometimes subtle and sometimes bold. One of the most memorable examples of this came during a royal tour of Australia in 1985. Diana and Charles attended an evening event in Melbourne, and Diana wore a striking green one-shoulder gown. She paired it with emerald and diamond earrings and what appeared to be a matching headband across her forehead. Except it wasn't a headband at all. It was actually the Art Deco emerald and diamond choker, a piece that had been given to Queen Mary by the ladies of India back in 1911. Queen Elizabeth had loaned it to Diana after her wedding, and it was meant to be worn around the neck. But Diana had discovered, apparently by accident, that if she placed the choker over her head like a headband, it created a stunning effect. She loved how it looked and decided to wear it that way to the Melbourne event. It was an unconventional choice, one that showed Diana didn't take royal jewelry too seriously. She obviously enjoyed wearing these pieces and appreciated their beauty, but she wasn't afraid to experiment and have fun with them. This willingness to break the rules and try unexpected things had a huge impact on fashion throughout the 1980s. It showed that even the most formal jewelry could be worn in fresh, modern ways. Diana had a particular fondness for pearls, and she owned several important sets. In 1991, she made a solo tour to Pakistan, traveling without Charles during a period when their marriage was becoming increasingly strained. For this tour, she chose to wear a pair of particularly large pearl and diamond drop earrings. These had been a wedding gift from the Emir of Qatar, and they were ornate and eye-catching. Pearls naturally draw attention to the face, and Diana knew this. By choosing these dramatic earrings, she ensured that people would focus on her expressions and reactions during the tour. She owned another significant pair of pearl earrings as well. These ones a wedding gift from the Spencer family jeweler Collingwood. She often wore these with the lover's knot tiara, and with other pieces from the royal collection, including the King Faisal diamond necklace that the Queen had loaned her. The combination of pearls with diamonds created a classic, timeless elegance that suited Diana perfectly. By 1993, Diana and Charles had formally separated, though not yet divorced. Diana's life had become complicated as she tried to navigate her position as still technically a member of the royal family while living separately from her husband. That year, she attended a performance by the English National Ballet at Her Majesty's Theatre in London. For this appearance, she chose to wear multiple strands of pearls around her neck in a style that was deliberately reminiscent of Queen Alexandra, a former Princess of Wales from the early 20th century, who had been known for her elegance and her love of pearls. This was a calculated choice on Diana's part. By echoing Queen Alexandra's style, she was connecting herself to the history of other women who had held her title. It was a way of asserting that she was still the Princess of Wales, still royal, even though her marriage was falling apart. The look was romantic and nostalgic, and it created a new fashion trend. Diana almost single-handedly revived what became known as the New Romantic style, where pearl chokers became a signature accessory. She wore them with high-collared dresses and blouses with wonderful frills, creating a look that was both regal and somehow accessible. Perhaps no set of jewels meant more to Diana than the sapphires she received as a wedding gift from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. This was an incredibly lavish present, a complete suite that included earrings, a bracelet, a watch, a ring, and a large pendant. The sapphires were Burmese stones, deep blue and perfectly matched, set with diamonds in contemporary settings. Diana had the set altered almost immediately to suit her taste. She converted the pieces into a choker that could be worn on a velvet band, created interchangeable sets of earrings, and even had a headband made. She wore these sapphires constantly throughout her time as Princess of Wales. For a young woman who had suddenly been thrust into a life of incredible formality and grandeur, these jewels seemed to give her confidence. They were spectacular enough for the most formal occasions, but she wore them in ways that felt fresh and youthful. In 1996, Diana wore an 11-strand pearl choker with the Saudi sapphire earrings to a charity event in the United States. She was dressed by Versace, and the photographs from that evening show a woman completely at ease with herself. This was no longer the nervous young bride from 1981. This was a confident, independent woman who knew exactly who she was and what she represented. She wore the Saudi watch on several occasions as well, including a memorable visit to Cardiff in 1981, very early in her tenure as Princess of Wales. At that event, she gave a speech to the Welsh people, telling them how proud she was to be their princess. The video footage shows her nervousness, the way her voice shook slightly, but also her determination to fulfill her role. The sapphires she wore that day seemed almost like armor, giving her strength. In November 1986, Diana and Charles traveled to Oman as part of a tour that also included Qatar. They were received by the Sultan of Oman at his palace, and he proved to be an exceptionally generous host. He presented Diana with an extraordinary suite of jewelry featuring diamonds arranged in crescent moon shapes, a symbol of the Islamic faith. The set included a necklace, bracelet, and earrings, all in strikingly modern settings despite the traditional symbolism. At first, Buckingham Palace tried to deny that Diana had received such extravagant gifts. The royal family was accustomed to receiving expensive presents from wealthy foreign dignitaries, but there were often sensitivities around publicizing these gifts. However, Diana was absolutely delighted with the Omani jewels, and she wasn't about to hide them away. A year later, during a tour of Germany in 1987, Diana unveiled the Omani suite for the first time in public. She wore the same midnight blue velvet dress she had worn to dance at the White House with John Travolta, an evening that had become legendary. Her hair was swept up, held in place by the Spencer tiara, and the Omani jewels glittered spectacularly. By this point, the marriage between Diana and Charles was under significant strain, but they were both still carrying out their duties, representing Britain abroad with professionalism despite their personal difficulties. Speaking of tiaras, Diana had access to several, but two became particularly associated with her. The Spencer tiara was actually her family's piece, not from the royal collection at all. It had been formed from different elements over time. The center section had been a wedding gift to Cynthia, Countess Spencer, who left the pieces to Lady Sarah Spencer in 1875. Then in 1937, 4 additional matching pieces from Gerard were added to create the complete tiara as we know it today. Diana's father loaned her the Spencer tiara, and she wore it frequently throughout her marriage as an alternative to pieces from the royal collection. She wore it for state banquets, official dinners, royal tours, and for many of her most iconic portrait photographs. In 1984, she wore the Spencer tiara to the state opening of Parliament, a particularly formal occasion where she appeared alongside the Queen and Prince Charles. Some criticized her for wearing such a spectacular tiara to this event, suggesting she was upstaging the Queen, but Diana clearly felt it was appropriate for the grandeur of the occasion. The other tiara most associated with Diana was the lover's knot, which had actually been a wedding present from the Queen. This piece had been made in 1914 by Gerard to a design by Queen Mary, who had based it on an earlier tiara owned by the Grand Duchess Vladimir. It featured 19 Baroque pearls hanging from diamond lover's knot bows, with diamond arches connecting them. It was an elaborate, heavy piece, but breathtakingly beautiful. Diana wore the lover's knot tiara on numerous state occasions and foreign tours. At first, she wore it in fairly conventional ways, for the formal events where you would expect to see such a grand piece. But then came Hong Kong in 1989, where Diana appeared in what can only be described as an Elvis Presley-inspired outfit, a white dress and jacket completely encrusted with pearls, designed by Catherine Walker. On her head sat the lover's knot tiara, somehow working perfectly with this bold, unexpected ensemble. It was vintage Diana, taking something traditional and presenting it in a completely fresh context. She had a gift for delivering the unexpected, while still maintaining dignity and elegance. After Diana's death in August 1997, her coffin was brought to Kensington Palace, the London home she had used as her base for so many years. From there, she had set out to attend countless events as the People's Princess, wearing these magnificent jewels and using her platform to bring attention to causes she cared about. When Diana appeared in public wearing the grand royal jewels, it created moments of genuine spectacle. Britain hadn't seen that combination of youth, beauty, and historic jewelry in generations. She brought radiance wherever she went, and while the jewels were certainly magnificent, they weren't what made her special. Diana herself was the light. Without the diamonds and sapphires and pearls, she still would have shone. The jewelry simply reflected what was already there: her warmth, her compassion, and her genuine desire to connect with people. Her legacy extends far beyond the beautiful things she wore. It lives on in the charitable work she championed, in the way she changed the monarchy's relationship with the public, and in the memories of everyone who was touched by her presence.